Welcome back to another class on Evean Hazaer Halacha series. We are continuing in Siman and Halacha Vav. Please listen to part 1 of the shiur to get a better understanding of part 2 of the shiur, because I'm not going to go back through everything, because we did do it on the board where we did speak about when does a father fulfill the mitzvah of Pruruvu, and we mentioned that if he had children, even though they never got married, he fulfills the mitzvah of Pruruvu. But in the previous class, in part 1 of the shiur, we did speak about something very unfortunate. What happens if the father had a boy and a girl, and both of his children, Chas v'Shalom lo aleinu, died, but each one of those children left a child behind? The Shulchan Aruch said that as long as the children that his children left behind was a boy and a girl, like we explained in part 1, we said that the father fulfills the mitzvah of Pruruvu, meaning the grandfather. Today we want to see in the Beheitav in Ot Tet. He's going to give us different cases where, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you're not going to be yotze the mitzvah of Pruruvu. According to other Rishonim, you will be yotze the mitzvah of Pruruvu. Now, before we do start, we want to try to cover today Beheitav. Two Pitchei Teshuvah, one of them is very important, and I'll show you why. And the very important, you have over here Cham and Bash, which I'm not going to do the Cham inside because the Beheitav is going to speak about it, but the Bash I'll try to do inside a little bit, because the Bash is going to try to bring out a very important halacha that a woman should never, I repeat, a woman should never sleep on a bed sheet that another guy has slept on it, meaning if it's not her husband. And we'll see why. It's very dangerous. Okay. Okay. So the Beheitav is going to speak about it now like this. He's going to say it's implied from the language of the Shulchan Aruch in Siman Aleph in Halacha Vav, where the Shulchan Aruch clearly says that I'm going to be using the terminology the grandfather only because we're going to be speaking about grandchildren and the father. So when I say the father, I don't want people to make the mistake thinking that is the children's father. I don't want to make that. I don't want people to make that mistake. I want people to know that when we speak about the father, I'm speaking about the grandfather. So the Beheitav is going to tell us like this today. From the words of the Shulchan Aruch, if you do part 1 of the Shulchan Aruch, it's self-understood, it's very simple, that if the grandfather had grandchildren that were a boy and a girl, and his children, Chas v'Shalom lo aleinu, died, meaning the father's children lo aleinu died, we're going to tell you that the father fulfills the mitzvah of Pruruvu. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. And it does not matter the order who has who. Doesn't matter if the father had a son and a daughter, and the son had a girl or a boy, or the daughter had a boy and a girl. Doesn't matter. As long as the father had a boy and a girl, and if Chas v'Shalom lo aleinu, they both died, but each one left a boy and a girl, according to the Shulchan Aruch, you fulfill the mitzvah of Pruruvu. Comes the Beheitav, and the Beheitav adds on this, and he says, Umashma, and it's implied. He says, Mashma, it's implied. Shnei zecharim umikol sheken shnei nekevot lo mehanim. From the words of the Shulchan Aruch, it's implied that what happened if the grandfather had 2 grandsons or 2 granddaughters. The Beheitav says it's implied from the words of the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't help for him to fulfill the mitzvah of Pruruvu. So let's do like this, Rabotai. Let's do this. There's just going to be many cases over here. Just let's try to have it clear. So we're going to have over here, let's say the father. Okay, so what we're going to do is like this. We have over here, the father had a son and a daughter. The son had a daughter and the daughter had a son. I did it dafka like that. So if it's good like this, then it'll be good even the other way. Meaning if the son gave birth to a son and the daughter gave birth to a daughter, the father fulfills the mitzvah of Uruvu. This all is according in the opinion with the Shulchan Aruch. Comes the Beheter says from this language it's implied that if the father had two grandsons, meaning the grandfather had two grandsons, from his daughter and from his son, or if they had so I hope you guys see from there. So let's do like this. So if the father had a son and daughter that passed away, but each one left a son and a son, the Be'etiv is telling us right now that the father, the grandfather, does not do the mitzvah of pruruvu, because you have to have a boy and a girl, and he doesn't have that. You have to have a grandchild, meaning a grandson and a granddaughter. He doesn't have it. Or if the father had a son and a daughter, but each one had a daughter and a daughter, we're going to tell you that the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of pruruvu. This is what the Behetiv is making an implication from the words of the Shulchan Aruch, because if you pay close attention to the blackboard, it says over here that the father who had a son and then he had a daughter, when they both died, each one left a daughter and a son behind. Only then you fulfill the mitzvah. So it implies that any other case, you don't fulfill the mitzvah. Comes the Behetiv. So one more time, let's do it one more time. It's implied that if you had two boys, meaning if you had two grandsons, or if you had two granddaughters, it doesn't help. The grandfather does not fulfill the mitzvah of pruruvu. Aval, however, Tosut B'Yivamot, Tosut Masechet Yivamot, Dav Samach Bet Amud Bet, on page 62, side 2, Svir they held, the Bishnei Zecharim Abbaim Miben Ubat Kiem Pruruvu. That if you have two boys that come at least from a boy and a girl, the father does fulfill the mitzvah of pruruvu. That means, according to the Shulchan Aruch, this situation, the father fulfills the mitzvah of pruruvu, but not anything else. According to Tosut, he says, no, even if you had two grandsons, as long as it came one from a son and one from a daughter, according to Tosut, Tosut says the father fulfills the mitzvah of pruruvu. Continues the Behetiv, Ubishilta Giburim Hosif, excuse me, in the Shilta Giburim he adds, Afilu Bishtei Banot Abbaim Miben Ubat Kiem Pruruvu. Even if we're dealing with two granddaughters, as long as they're coming from a son and a daughter, we're going to tell you that the father fulfills the mitzvah of pruruvu. So we see clearly that the Shulchan Aruch is the most stringent one. Then goes Tosfot, because he doesn't say you fulfill the mitzvah with granddaughters. But then you have the most lenient one, which is the Shilta Giburim, where he learns that if a father had a boy and a girl, and they both had a girl, and Chasram Lolim, his children died, we're going to say that the grandfather fulfills the mitzvah of pruruvu. Now we're going to try to see different cases altogether. Now we're going to see different cases. What happens? I'm just going to turn the blackboard. Let's try to work this way now. What happens if the father had two sons? He didn't have a daughter, but they had, we'll see, a son and a daughter. Let's see the cases. Behetiv says, what happens if the father had two boys? Each one left a boy and a girl. One of the children had a son. The other boy had a daughter. ואם היה לו בית זכרים והם הניחו זכר ונקבה, או שהיה לו בית זכרים ואחד מהם היה לו בת, but one of them had a daughter, look in pruruvu. Okay. Or what happens like this? What happens if the father he had two sons. I'm gonna give you another chart, 1 second. Let's say he had two sons. Okay. All right, boys. So let's do this. Let's do this one more time with the chart. I hope you guys see it. Let's do this one more time. What happens if the father had two sons? But each one left a son and a daughter. That means these two sons had died. That is case number one. What happens if the father had two sons on the bottom? If you guys can see it. Right here. What happens if the father had two sons, but they didn't die? But one of them had a daughter. In both of these situations, we're going to tell you, Loki and Pruvu. The Be'etiv says in these situations, the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu. Why is that? Comes to Be'etiv and he says, in order for the father to fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu, he first has to have a girl and a boy. It's not enough for him to have boy and then his son has a girl, or a boy in this case, or a girl just in this case. In these situations, the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu, meaning the grandfather. I want to explain to you like this. Let's do it one more time. If the father had a son and a son, and they both died, but they left each one a son and a daughter, why doesn't the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu? Very simple. Because in order for him to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu, he first had to have a daughter. He didn't have a daughter. He had only a son, so it doesn't help. What about this case, where they're both alive, and one of them had a daughter? Because remember, they're both alive over here. Still, he doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu. Why? Because we want him to first have a daughter before his son has the daughter. So if he has two sons and he has a daughter, that doesn't help. Had he had a daughter, and then he had a son, and if they were alive, we'll tell you 100% it helps. Because remember, even if the children never get married, as long as they're alive and they never get married, we started the previous classes, according to the Shulchan Aruch, the father fulfills the mitzvah of Pru'urvu. Okay. So, those two cases we said that the grandfather does not fulfill the mitzvah of Pru'urvu. But now he says like this. What happens like this? V'ima ben kiyem, v'abat meta. What happens now like that? What happens if you have a case right now? If the father had a son and a daughter, let's do this. Here, let's go here. The father had a son and a daughter. V'hinika bat kiyem pru'urvu. What happens if the father had a son and a daughter, but lo leinu rabotai chas shalom, the daughter died, but she left a girl behind her. She left a daughter. One more time. V'ima ben kayam, if the son is alive, v'abat meta chas shalom lo leinu, and the daughter died lo leinu, v'hinika bat, but the daughter left a daughter. Kiyem puru, the father fulfills the mitzvah of puru. Why? Because initially he had a son and a daughter, and she had a daughter. So this is basically good for the grandfather. Now what happens? Go to all the way, Rabbota. V'ima ben kayam. What happens if the son is alive? V'lo holid adain, but he still didn't give any. He still didn't have a boy and a girl. V'habat meta, but the daughter died. Chasu shalom lo leinu. V'hinika ben, but she left a son. The Be'er is going to tell you in this scenario, since it looks like the father has two sons, the grandfather does not fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. Alright, so one more time. V'ima ben kayam v'lo hulid adayin. If the boy is alive, but the son didn't give birth to anybody yet, he doesn't have a boy or a girl. V'abat meta lo leinu chas v'shalom, but the daughter died. V'hinika ben, but she left a son. Loki and pru'urvu, the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu. So we clearly see, Rabotai, that in the previous case, why did the father fulfill the mitzvah of pru'urvu? Was very simple. Because since he left a son, and he has a granddaughter, So basically it has a male and a female. So he fulfills the mitzvah per room. But in this case, even though he had a son and a daughter, but since the grandson is born to the daughter, but she's dead, so it comes out as if the father has a son and a son. Because you have to remember, the Gemara says, I should maybe mention in the beginning, we say that that the children's children are like the father's children. Okay? In any event, these are the cases about the nobody should ever know these things. Everyone should have healthy children, good children that are going to be able to be fruitful and multiply. Rabotai, bring you lots of children, grandchildren, great-children. All of them should be able to go in the derech of Hashem. With this, we are finished in the Behetiv. Now we want to see something else. Now the Behetiv is going to say that the Cham, he had a doubt. The Cham said like this, Yesh li stapek. He says, I have a doubt. Isha shinit abra be'ambatia. What happens if a woman became pregnant in a bathtub, meaning in a pool of water? Im ha'av kiyem pru'uru. Are we going to say that the father fulfills the mitzvah of pru'uru? Ve'im nikra b'no l'chol davar. And also, is that child considered to be his son for all things? Halachically, like say, inheritance-wise, if the father Lolenu dies, does he get the inheritance? Does he have to shiva for the father? And so on and so forth. What happens if the father's a Kohen? Is he a Kohen? Is he a son in all things? That's the Cham's suffix. The Cham says, I don't know. A woman went into an ambatia. She went into a bathhouse, where a bathtub where there was a pool of water. Basically, she went into a body of water. And I guess there was a guy there, or he left. It doesn't matter the situation. And semen came out of him, and it entered her, and she became pregnant from him. The Cham says, I don't know. Did that guy who left, who doesn't even know that she's pregnant, did he fulfill the mitzvah pru'urvu? Let's say he had a daughter with another wife, but now he has with her a son. Does he fulfill the mitzvah pru'urvu? He says, I don't know. And also another thing is this his son in all things? Because they did not have intercourse. Comes the Behetiv and he says, Ubash hevi ra'aya. The Bash, he brought a ra'aya, he brought a proof. De'ahave bino l'chol davar. It's his son for all things. He fulfills the mitzvah of pru'urvu. And then if the father Lolenu dies, yeah, he gets the inheritance. If he dies, he has to go and sit shiva. If he's a Kohen, the son is a Kohen. He's the son in all halachic aspects. What was the proof? And this is what I want to show you, Rabotai. In the Beis Shmuel, in Ot Yud, in Sivkat and Yud, he says like this. Rabotai is Halacha Shulchan Aruch. V'yesh lahavi ra'aya mima shekatav b'haga'ot smak. V'abach hevi b'yordea Siman kuf tzadik hey. We can bring a proof for the Cham. This that he had a doubt, I can solve it. Where? From the footnote of the Smak, from the amendment of the Smak, and the Beit Chadash borrowed down in Yordea in Siman kuf tzadik hey. That's Siman 195. Says over there like this: Isha muzheret. A woman is warned. She'al tishkav al sadin. Do not lie down on a bed sheet. She'shachav alehem ish acher. That another guy has slept on it. Why? Pentit aber mishichvat zera shel acher. Maybe you're going to become pregnant from the sperm or the semen of that other guy. The guy Chas v'Shalom Lolenu saw a wet dream. She doesn't know. He doesn't know. He slept, whatever he saw, he got up, he left. She came, whatever it was, Rabota, I'm not going to get into all details. Sleeping on the same spot, gets impregnated by the sperm. Now she becomes pregnant. So that's where comes the Chachamim. They tell you a woman should never be sleeping on another man's bed. Change the sheet. Check, make sure it's clean, but don't just go in and sleep. So you have to understand why. What's the big deal? I mean, isn't it, I don't know, maybe, listen. Why is it so bad? I'm not telling that it's good. I'm trying to say, what were the Chachamim really worried about that they had to make this a warning that a woman should never sleep on another bedsheet of a guy? What were they worried about? So he says like this, Hazaer, it was a decree. What was the decree? Shemay, because you have to understand, is there any issue that she's doing chas v'shalom? How is she supposed to know, right? Is she doing an act of adultery? Is she sleeping? No. So I'm just trying to bring out a point. What is she doing wrong? Like, why are you giving this warning? So he said, I'll tell you why. Hazaer Shemay yisa achoto me'aviv. It's a decree. We made a decree. Why? Because we were afraid maybe this son that's going to come out of this lady is going to marry his sister from his father's side. He's not going to know. How is he going to know? The guy left. She got pregnant. She has a boy. That guy had another girl with another woman. Now one day they're going to meet up. They're going to feel connected and they're going to get married. Comes out that he's marrying, the brother's marrying his sister. Nishmas comes the Bash and he says, you learn from over here that it's his son for all cases. Meaning in all halachic aspects. If you are afraid, if you're making this Hazaer that you don't want the boy that's coming out from this woman to go ahead and you're afraid that he's going to marry his sister from his father's side, if that's what you're afraid of, that means that's the son. So from there the Bash says, Chama answered your questions. Does the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pruvu? Yes. Is the son his son in all halachic aspects? 100%. So we see over here, Rabotai, a very important concept that even you should know, it's very scary. I mean, you guys can tell me all you want, Clorox, Shulmorox, you guys can tell me all the stories, do all your research, whatever you want to do. But you have to understand, when Chachamim tell us something, Chachamim's words will carry more weight than any scientific proof that there is. And why am I saying this? A lot of times you have people that they go to beaches. I don't want to use beaches. Beaches is a store, I'm not, but it's a little bit, it's a very big, it's a very, what do you call it? It's a vast amount of water. It's very spread out and so on and so forth. That's maybe a bad example. But sometimes you have people, they go to body of water where it's not so, right? It's not so big, like maybe like a regular pool or something very confined, and they have a good time. And you have men and women. Besides the whole prohibition that you're not allowed to be there with men and women, but you have other problems. You can't tell me that when a guy is there and he looks at a woman who's immodest, that no semen is coming out of him. 100% something's coming out of him. He doesn't want it, it could come out of him. So what happens over here is you're taking a risk with a woman being in another body of water with another guy, where that could potentially impregnate your wife. Rabotai, it's a problem. It's a very big problem, because that's what happened in the bathtub. That's what happened. Maybe the guy was there, he left. Maybe the semen came out of him. She came in without paying attention, and then she became pregnant. And now we want to know, is that the son of that guy? We see from the Bash, yes, it is. But I just want to bring out a point. Besides the prohibitions that are done when people are immodest and so on and so forth, you have bigger problems, Rabotai. Besides the germs and everything else, look at how the Chachamim warn us that a woman shouldn't even sleep on a bed sheet where a guy slept on. Because maybe sperm came out of him and that's going to go into her and she's going to become pregnant. We have to be very careful. We have to be very careful with our wives and our daughters and so on and so forth. People should not be naive. They shouldn't be naive. In any event, Rabotai, this is that. Now we want to move to a Pidchi Teshuvah. The Pidchi Teshuvah says in Ot Tet, also Dibra Matchil V'Nikeva, says, I'm Berhetiv, says, look into the Berhetiv, Umasha Katav, what he wrote over there, which we did see, V'ima Ben Kiyam, right, excuse me, we saw over there that if the father had a boy and a girl, but the son was alive, meaning he lives, but he wasn't able to have children. However, when the daughter, she had a son and she died, the Behetiv says she does not fulfill the father does not fulfill the mitzvah Pruvu. Okay, one more time. Watch this. We explain like this. The Be'etiv is bringing down only one case. The Pilchet Teshuva is only bringing down one case from the Be'etiv. If a father had a son and a daughter, the son, he's alive, he didn't die. The daughter died, but she left a son. The Be'etiv says that the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of Purvu. Comes the Pilchet Teshuva and he says, why? Why doesn't he fulfill the mitzvah of Purvu? The Pilchet Teshuva is going to try to prove that he does fulfill the mitzvah of Purvu. So let me read it for you one more time. I'm Be'etiv, look into the Be'etiv. You have to continue that whole thing what I just said. That if the ben was alive, if the son was alive and the daughter died, but the son was not able, he didn't still bring children to the world, but the daughter did, she brought a boy, but she died. That's from the words of the Bash. Look into the notes of the Yad Ephraim that he wrote. One second. That he wrote on this. According to the opinion of Tosfot, the Ben Zecharim Abaim Mezachar Unkeva Mehani, where he says that over there that if you have two boys that come from a boy and a girl, right, watch this. He says, because what I told you before, we saw this in the Be'etiv also, that if the father had a son and a daughter, but each one brought a son and a son, even though, right, when they died, we say that the father fulfills the mitzvah of Purvu with the two sons. So if in this case the father fulfills the mitzvah of Purvu with two grandsons, over here also we're going to give the father's going to be able to fulfill the mitzvah of the grandson with his son to fulfill the mitzvah of Purvu. So let's see that one more time. He said like this. I'm Be'etiv, look into the Be'etiv, and what he wrote over there, if the son was alive and he still did not bring children to the world, etc. Whom mid the Rabash, that's from the words of the Bash. Look into the Yad Ephraim that he wrote on this, according to the opinion of the Tosfot. The Bet Zecharim Habaim Mezachar Unikeva, that if you have two boys that come from a boy and a girl, like I explained, Mehani, it helps you. The father fulfills the mitzvah Purvu. Peshiti says, then it's simple. The Gam Ze Mehani. It's simple, so too then this will also help. So it comes out where the Be'etiv told us that the grandfather over here does not fulfill the mitzvah Purvu, according to the Sefer called Hagaot Yad Ephraim. Over there he says that the father, in this case, will fulfill the mitzvah Purvu. And what's his proof? From the Tosfot over here. Where Tosfot said that if you had a son and a daughter, and he had two sons, meaning each one had a son, and they both died, said the father fulfills the mitzvah Purvu. Why is this different than this? Same thing. So that is his opinion. Okay. Rabotai, he continues with saying, look over there, look over there. We're not going to go into that because we're not going to look over there. But another Precaution Teshuva in Ot Yud where it says Shota v'Katan. If you guys remember, in part 1 we said, Hayah ben Mamzer. What happens if the son was a Mamzer, or Cherish, or a deaf mute, Shote, or what happens if he was deranged, V'Katan if he was a minor. The Ramah says, Kiyem HaMitzvah. The Ramah says the father fulfills the mitzvah Purvu. What happens if the father had a ben as a mamzer, but then he had a girl, a regular child? Since he has a boy and a girl, even though the son is a mamzer, still going to tell the father fulfills the mitzvah Purvu. What happens the other way around? What happens if a father has a normal daughter, but he has a deaf mute son, chas v'shalom, or a deranged son? We're going to tell you those two, as long as they are alive, they fulfill the mitzvah Purvu. The problem over here is, how does the father fulfill the mitzvah Purvu with a child? How? Meaning with a child, right? With a minor. How? This Rabotai bothered me on the spot. You know why? Because if you take a minor cannot get married yet, and the whole thing we want to make sure that he has to be able to pass 13. Meaning like this, if a father has a boy and a girl at the age of, he has one daughter is 2 years old and one boy is 3 years old, let's say. Does the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu at that time? Yes or no? According to what I'm about to read for you now, no. Why? Because they can't have children now. And you have to make sure that they pass the age of 13 and 12 in order where they fall into the mitzvah of having children, and they have to be able to survive also. They have to be able to live. If chas v'shalom they don't make it to the age of 13 or 12, lo oleinu chas v'shalom, so the father didn't fulfill the mitzvah of Pru. Even if they went up to the age of 20, but they died, chas v'shalom lo oleinu, the father doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of Pru. So when is it specifically does the father fulfill the mitzvah of Pru? That especially when they outlived the father and not the... That's especially when they outlive the father, right? And not the father outlives them. Now, what triggered me over here, Rabotai? If you look into the Pitchet Teshuvah in Od Yud, he says over there, when the Ramah says, Mamzer Ocheresh Shote Vikatan, the Pitchet Teshuvah says, L'choira, seemingly it seems, Agav Shitifei, Naket Vikatan. Incidentally, the Tana, when he taught it, he took the word Vikatan. I put it to you like this. Whenever you learn a Gemara, sometimes the language is like, usually whenever you say, it goes very simple, it's like this. It goes, Cheresh Shota Vikatan. That's how it goes. So, whenever you say Cheresh Shota Vikatan, it's automatic. They're always together. The Pitchet Teshuvah is telling you, if I don't have this Pitchet Teshuvah, I'm going to learn this Ramah, that a father is also able to fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu with small children. He's able to fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu with small children. But the way the Pitchet Teshuvah is telling us now that the katan was just thrown in there, by the way, but it's really not supposed to be there, it comes out over here that the father does not fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. The father can only fulfill the mitzvah with a child, a boy who's over 13, and a girl who's over 12. But underneath 13 and 12, the father still cannot do the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. Because remember, he has to be able to marry, they have to be in a marriageable stage. They have to be able to get married. They have to be able to have their own children. At 8, 9 years old, you can't really see that yet. Because they're not getting married anyway. So we're going to wait until 13 or 12. So that's what Rabotai, this Pitchet Teshuvah, it says the word l'chor seemingly. Again, I ran it through a Talmud Chacham that I learned with, and that's the way it makes sense actually. And he brings it down. This is Hagod Yad Ephraim also. He says also, he said this is also the amendments from the Yad Ephraim. He's the one that says it, that the katan should not be here. By the way, there is a Shulchan Aruch, which is this one. It's a little bit more analytical. It's a Mahadur Friedman edition. Over here I looked it up. Over here they say you should actually take away the word katan. The katan is not supposed to be over here. So, Lamay Nafkamina Rabotai, what's the difference? Very simple. If a father has a boy who's 3 years old, and he has a girl who's 20 years old, did the father fulfill the mitzvah yet? Yes or no? No. The father does not fulfill the mitzvah. What I mean, what happens if you had a mamzer, shote, or a cherish? Does he fulfill the mitzvah? Yes. Again, all this is above their bar mitzvah age or bar mitzvah age. So anyway, that's what we want to see. That's why the Ramah is bringing you down over here. Haya ben mamzer, if the son was a mamzer, or cherish, or if he was a deaf mute, or shote, or if he was deranged, in those cases we're going to tell you the father fulfilled the mitzvah specifically when? That's specifically over the age of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. But katan, even though the Ramah brings the word katan over here, according to Mahadur Friedman edition, he says take it out. According to the Pitchet Teshuvah, he says the reason why it was brought over here is because when the Tana, when they speak, he just brought it by the way. It's incidental. It's not coming to teach you also with the katan for the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. So if a person doesn't fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu with the katan, when does the father really start fulfilling the mitzvah of Pru Urvu? That's only when the children reach the age of bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah, and they live, meaning they outlive the father. Or if chas v'shalom lo oleinu Rabotai, they lo oleinu chas v'shalom, but if they lo oleinu, if their father outlived them. But like we saw, we have to make sure that according to the Shulchan Aruch, each one had to leave a boy and a girl behind. And we saw the other opinions, where it was 2 boys or 2 girls and so on and so forth, according to other opinions, where they say in those cases you also fulfill the mitzvah of Pru Urvu. In any event, Rabotai, we're going to conclude over here. I'm not going to do a whole Hazaer on this piece because there were too many cases. If you have to listen to it again, please re-listen to it again. But I do want to take away something from here very, very important. That how careful we have to be as men to educate our women. You have to understand, these things are not a joke. I've heard many stories where people in parties, or while the husband is away, or while the wife is away, when they're cheating on each other. You have to understand, we need to protect our wives, our children, from the outside world, from the society that influences us, that it's okay to do wrong. It's not, Rabotai, okay to do wrong. Just because you're doing good, excuse me, just because you're doing good, doesn't give you that right to go ahead and do sometimes bad. Because that's sometimes what we feel. We feel, I davened, I learned this and that, so I could go and do X, Y, and Z. Now, whatever, I don't know, whatever you guys want to do. That should not be our thought process. Because you have to understand, when you're doing everything was good, and then do something bad, you want to be lenient in that something bad, that's your slipping slide where you're going back down. Then you have to climb back everything back up again. In any event, Rabotai, we have to be very careful in these halachot. Be'ezrat Hashem, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu bless each and every one of us with children that are going to outlive the parents. They should have long lives, healthy lives, good lives, lives with a lot of parnasa, where they're going to be able to sit to learn Torah and bring out Hashem's name in the world and illuminate the world with their Torah, with their midot and everything else. B'ezrat Hashem, may they only have arichet yamim, arichet shanim, also us, Rabotai. But may we see nachas from all our children. Baruch Adonai Olam. Amen. Amen.